In our last video, we discussed how we can run a test using the test plan. Today, we are going to be talking about the load testing. And once again, this load testing is something which is kind of a test that you can do for load testing your application. And once again, there are some cost involved for the load testing if you're going to use number of virtual users and things of that nature. But I'm just going to be showing you a very quick demo on how to work with the load testing of your applications. I did a load testing of my eaapp.sawmill.com website, this one, which is like a EA employee app, which I have used in many different courses of mine. So you can see that the application by itself is kind of very slow in terms of the loading, but you can see that the average response time for the application, this one, is going to be like 260.4 millisecond, which is kind of true, and the user load is just 25. And the request per second is like 43.4, and you can see there is no error anyways, and you can see that this is the information that you get when you try to execute that, and there are some charts as well. It shows you the performance, throughput, and tests and errors and things of that nature. So you can see all sort of stuffs with the load testing of your application. So if you're going to do a load testing, what you need to do is you need to see what sort of test that you're going to be testing with. Are you going to be doing a Visual Studio test? So if you're going to use the Visual Studio test, which means you need to have a load testing created in Visual Studio Enterprise version, or if you have an HTTP archive based test, which is nothing but the HAR file, so you need to upload the HAR file as well. Or you can, if you have a Apache JMeter test, you can also import the JMeter test here, guys, which is really cool. So you can do that stuff as well. Or if you have a URL based test, this is what I'm going to be showing you, where you can just specify the URL of your application and it's going to do the testing for you. Pretty cool, right? So I probably am going to do the testing of my local host, and then I'm going to say load testing local app. And you can see that you can also import the HAR file if you have. I don't really have one, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. And this is not even a kind of perfect load test which I'm doing, but I'm just gonna go to the settings, and you can see that it's gonna ask you which provisioning agent that you're gonna be using. Are you gonna be from South India, Chennai, or something like that? And these are the locations that it actually have all the stuff. And you can also see that you can use the self-provisioned agent if you have one. And again, for the self-provisioning agent, you need to install the on-prem load testing agents for that, and again, that's going to be completely out of scope of this particular course, so I'm just not going to be doing it for now. Maybe in future we'll be adding that as a separate section. So I'm going to go to the web scenario. I'm not even going to add any scenarios in here. I'm just going to show you the greatest feature the load testing has got. So I'm just going to run the test, and once I hit the run test, you can see that it is going to show you that the load testing is actually queued up. And once it is queued up, meaning it's going to wait for any one of the available test agent, and then it is going to pick up that particular agent, and then it is going to start testing our application. So you can see that it is acquiring the resources right now, and you can see that the load testing is currently running, and you can see that there is like failed requests of like 100%. The reason is because our application is kind of a local host, and the local host actually means that you need to make your application to be static IP or something like that. But since it is kind of my local machine, I don't really have specified the static IP of my machine. I will always see like a lot of failures this time, and which is gonna make sense as well, because that's how things will actually work. So I'm probably gonna just leave this for now, but since we have already seen the report, I don't really want to show you how it is going to be for the local test. So basically, if you're going to run a test within your local machine, you need to either give the IP address of your machine, which you can find using my public IP, and then you need to map this with your IIS server so that you can run that. But I'm not really going to be doing all these stuffs right now, but it gives you an idea of what's really happening behind the scene. So you can see that it is like 100% failure, which does make sense because it is not going to be running with our local machine. But now that you can see that it shows us a chart and the diagnostic informations and the logs of what's really happening with your test in your application, and also you can download the page requests and stuffs from here. So that's it, guys. This is how we can do the load testing with our test plans in Azure DevOps services.